Good morning. I have a short statement that I'd like to make as we start the new year. Fellow Kenyans, indeed, as our children settle back in school after the December holidays, and as all of our 2019 KCPE candidates report to their respective secondary schools in our second year of 100% transition, I would once again wish to convey my best wishes to all Kenyans for the new year. My intent first is also to focus on milk, potatoes, rice, and banana producers in the agricultural sector. In the agricultural sector, our farmers have continued to get high milk yields. However, due to the excess supply, they are receiving very low prices for their milk. As a result of these high yields and low prices, we have managed to get a much better and much clearer understanding of the situation. And this situation has been exacerbated by the inclusion of powdered milk, which is smuggled into Kenya from outside our East African region. This has caused financial hardship to dairy farmers. As part of my intent and pledge to milk farmers, I have given 3 very practical directives. 1, I have directed the National Treasury to release 500 million shillings to the new KCC to purchase excess milk from farmers and to convert this milk into powder for future use. 2, I have also directed the National Treasury to release a further 575 million shillings to the new KCC for 2 milk plants, one in Nyeri and another in Uhuru, to enhance their processing capacity. In sum, my intent is to boost the milk industry with 1 billion Kenya shillings in the immediate run as a way of supporting their efforts. We have also said that in order to protect our milk producers from illegal imports, I have also directed the National Treasury to impose a 16% VAT tax on all milk products that have originated from outside the EAC, the East African Community, and I have further directed KEBS, Customs, and the DCI to impound any powdered milk or milk products that does not meet our Kenyan standards. With regard to potatoes, banana, and rice farmers, all of these who have been blessed with a bumper harvest as a result of the rains, and because their products are perishable in nature, they suffer immense losses when they cannot sell them on time. As part of my intent and support to producers of perishable goods, again, I have issued 2 very practical directions. I have directed that the National Treasury release 300 million shillings to the Micro and Small Enterprise Authority for the construction of cold storage and processing facilities in Meru, Nyandarua, and Kisii. 2, I have directed that the National Treasury release a further 660 million shillings to the Kenya National Trading Corporation to purchase all the excess rice from Kano Plains in Nyanza and also Mwea for onward selling to our disciplined forces, prison services, as well as to our boarding schools. The 2 regions have experienced bumper harvests and found them with excess rice in their stores. With regard to the entertainment industry, producers in the entertainment industry are also a critical plank of our economy. Kenyans are indeed highly talented, and the music industry is potentially one of the most lucrative in our country. Hundreds, if not thousands, of our young men and women have invested an incredible amount of effort in the industry, but are getting very low returns from their investment. And we must allow their investments to pay off so that many more can follow them into the industry. And I believe that this way we can do exceptionally well. So going forward, therefore, I have directed the National Treasury, the Ministry of Trade and Industry, the Ministry of Agriculture, and the Attorney General to finalize and gazette the newly developed Tea Regulation 2019 within the next 2 weeks. These regulations include establishment of the Green Leaf Pricing Formula Committee to determine the formula for pricing of green leaf. Further, the establishment of a self-sustaining stabilization fund to cushion farmers against price fluctuations and ensure implementation of guaranteed minimum returns, the establishment of the Kenya Tea Council, and the regulation of the volumes of tea sold through the auction and through direct sales, direct contracts, to be set at 80% and auction at 20%. Fellow Kenyans, the same problems of governance, conflict of interest, and scrupulous buying methods that have bedeviled our tea sector are also very similar to those in the coffee sector. The Coffee Task Force, which I established in 2016, has completed its work, and I am aware that the recommendations have not yet been implemented. So today again, I direct the Ministry of Agriculture to immediately implement the task force recommendations. In addition to the above measures for the coffee sector, I have directed the National Treasury to immediately operationalize the 3 billion shilling Cherry Revolving Fund within the next 30 days to cushion farmers from delayed payments and enable them to access finance to meet their daily cash flow requirements while awaiting payments for their produce. 5 commercial banks in Kenya have set aside 10 billion shillings to be lent to MSMEs at an interest rate of 9% per annum in loan amounts ranging between 30,000 to 250,000 shillings. Partnership between the government and MSMEs in the construction industry to provide doors and windows for the affordable housing program is another policy program that we intend to follow through on. In line also with one of the recommendations for policy change in the Building Bridges report, Biashara centers will be established across the country to provide a huduma type of one-stop shop to provide business development services under one roof. The first Biashara center is now fully functional at Kariobangi in Nairobi. Fellow Kenyans, my second intent for the year is to increase the money in the pocket of our farmers. And I believe this will be achieved by directing our anti-corruption efforts against those managing the agricultural sector and exploiting their position for illegal gain and trading, sometimes in conflict of interest. I have also therefore directed action to increase the revenue to farmers as opposed to the middlemen and brokers. Today, after a period of lengthy discussion, I want to specifically deliver solutions on those issues that relate to the tea and coffee sector. Kenya remains a leading exporter of black tea, accounting for nearly 20% of total global exports. However, lately, the industry has been experiencing difficulties, particularly with regard to diminished earnings for the farmers. We have therefore decided to take the following actions to address some of these concerns. The first is with regard to pricing policy and mechanisms for smallholder farmers. The key concerns are on low prices for tea, delayed payments, low initial payment by KTDA, and fluctuations in the net income of tea farmers. Smallholder issue of removal of the interest rate cap. You will recall that the law capping interests in Kenya came into force in 2016 and set the maximum lending rate at no more than 4 percentage points above the central bank rate. This law was introduced following a public outcry against the high cost of credit. The implementation of the law was expected to lower the cost of credit, but also to increase access to credit. Unfortunately, the law had the opposite effect on the economy and reduced the amount available for credit. The removal, therefore, of the interest rate cap in November last year will facilitate the availability of more credit to businesses, which it will in turn increase the circulation of money. And at this point, I urge the Central Bank of Kenya to use the full range of instruments of regulation and policy at its disposal to prevent predatory lending and to ensure that banks can offer loans at affordable interest rates. Clearing bills is indeed a priority. And I'm pleased to note that following my directive in November of 2019, that all verified and genuine pending bills be paid immediately, about 70% of pending bills owed by national and county governments and have been deemed and verified as payable have been paid by the 31st of December. Similarly, with a planned infrastructure bond of 150 billion shillings, all infrastructure-related bills will be settled early this year, and this will go a long way to aid the completion of all ongoing road and infrastructure projects across our country. On this, I indeed appreciate the support that I have received from Parliament in appropriating budgetary resources that made it possible to make these payments.